IRB Infra, the first stock on my watch list this morning. They've put a business update out. I'm giving it a thumbs up because numbers look okay on the face of it. Their gross toll collection in Feb, and this is the year-on-year comparative, is 14.5% at 529 crores versus 462 crores. The average per-day collection is up 19%. At close to 19 crores versus 16 crores. The management says the continuous robust toll revenue growth in second month of the calendar year and second last month of FY25 looks reassuring. They aim to surpass the toll revenue of FY24. So they're on track for that guidance. So that's the case with IRB, giving it a thumbs up. Lupin, very quickly, Lupin again a thumbs up. They've launched a cardiac tablet. It's called Rivaroxaban. Okay, I'm not going to try this. In the US, the launch follows the US FDA final approval. It's a generic and it's a bioequivalent of a tablet which treats blood clots. The US sales of the equivalent were about 446 million, so which is why it's a big marketplace. Biocon got a similar nod also a few weeks ago. So thumbs up for a Lupin on that count. Want to talk about IndusInd Bank as well. Now, IndusInd Bank, this is an interesting story. The Reserve Bank of India has reappointed the MD and CEO, Sumant Katpalia, for 1 year. The announcement has come just 16 days before his tenure ends. But remember, the extension was sought for 3 years. So it's the second time the RBI has granted an extension to Mr. Katpalia, but for a shorter tenure. He's been leading the bank since 2020, and after the first 3-year tenure, he first got a 2-year extension in March 2023, which would have ended now at the end of the month. Now he's got only 1-year extension. Now, in previous cases where the RBI has given a shorter extension, those have been there. For RBL Bank, for example, in 2021, Mr. Ahuja was given a 1-year extension instead of 3 years. The stock has already been down about 35% in the last 6 months. Most brokerages are saying that perhaps this uncertainty is baked in. But in my view, this is a thumbs down because there's no clarity about who comes next. There's no clarity if Mr. Katpalia will hang on if he only has 1 year visibility to his tenure in such a high position. So this is what Macquarie is saying. They've maintained an outperform with a target price of 1,210 on IndusInd Bank. But they say that the RBI has announced extension of 1 year, which is a disappointment, a shorter extension than they expected. This creates an uncertain environment in the near to medium term, and the CEO may decide to hang up his boots earlier, given the suboptimal tenure approval. Then there might be another appointment of a different CEO who, given the current trends, could be a PSU banker, and they believe that that would lead to a structural de-rating. There have been precedents where CEO has received an extension of 3 years post the completion of 1-year tenure. However, the likelihood of this is low in our view. So I would say that even though the stock has corrected thanks to this uncertainty, perhaps you will see more turbulence when it comes to an IndusInd Bank, because will the current MD and CEO hang on with just 1 year out? Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting one because Friday it was one of the biggest losers as well, right? But apart from the names that Tamanna mentioned, the 3 stocks that are on my radar today will be first Neogen Chemicals. Now, this space has been absolutely important and the street has been watching out for, because in terms of the third quarter, there has been disappointment. But now, on the back of the fire that happened at the Dahej, they've gone ahead and cut their FY25-26 revenue guidance. Now, in terms of the FY25 revenue guidance, that has been revised to 765 to 800 crores from 800 to 825 crores. If you talk about their FY26 guidance, that has been lowered to 775 to 850 crores from 950 to 1,000 odd crores. And clearly, this facility was established in February 2022, and this was for the inorganic chemicals. Now, there have been no casualties or injuries that have occurred, and they've said that the reconstruction is expected to take nearly 9 months to a year. So that's one of the major reasons why the revision in terms of the guidance goes, and they will be shifting production of critical specialty products to other sites. Which sites and by when, those are details that are still awaited. But clearly, this is a thumbs down. Stock ended with cuts of around 4% on Friday. There could be further selling pressure that could be coming in on that one. The second one, again, from the chemical space is Bodal Chemicals. Now, India has gone ahead and imposed anti-dumping duty, I beg your pardon, on TCCA imports, and this is from China and Japan. Now, TCCA is trichloroisocyanuric acid, and this is mainly used in water treatment as well as food processing. In India, Bodal Chemicals is the sole producer of TCCA. And this anti-dumping duty will actually add 50 to 60 odd crores to companies' annual turnover. And this will be effective the 7th of March for 5 years. So a thumbs up coming in for Bodal Chemicals is from the chemical space. And very lastly, IRDA is another one, again a thumbs down, and this is because RBI has denied the company's request for equity investment for hydro project. And this is going to be a 900 megawatt hydroelectric power project in Nepal. But what the company has indicated is that it is not really going to dent their balance sheet or P&L. However, they will represent again to the RBI with regards to this. What's interesting with the IRDA is that it was launched in November 2023, as we know, issued at around 32 rupees per share. It went and made an all-time high of, I think, 310. And from the peak, the stock has nearly come down by 50 to 60%, right? So again, there could be pressure coming in terms of IRDA in today's session as well, Neeraj.
Yeah, so could be interesting, these names as well. So keep an eye out. Very quickly, I'm talking about 3 names. The first one is Narayana Rudalaya is going to establish and operate a network of healthcare centers in India. It's a thumbs up. Now, the reason I've given it the thumbs up because they're still embarking on the plans, but the margins for operating such centers are very high. There are 2 or 3 chains like this in the private sector which operate at very high margins. Narayana has the brand image to also get in more customers for something like this. So keep an eye out for this one. A conversation with Dr. Devi Shetty at some point of time in this week is something that we will do. While IT's been a bit on the sluggish side, I take a brokerage note from CLSA on Infosys as the second stock in focus because they've upgraded the stock to an outperform. They say discretionary demand revival across key verticals and geos remain intact. So clearly CLSA in their conversation with Infosys or otherwise might have seen that there is the discretionary demand revival, and they say with the correction, the Q4 seasonality is priced in. The on-ground demand resilience remains intact, according to CLSA. So multiple reasons, of course, but these are the 2 key things, which is why they've done this. So watch out for Infosys. Let's see if IT has a bit of a revival. It's had a very sluggish last 1 month, and which is what CLSA is saying. Negatives are priced in. The third one is HPCL, and I bring this up despite the fact that the stock, the announcement maybe happened during Friday market hours, but the news is big, and we were talking about this with Rahul Chadha earlier. But what's happened is that government has finalized a new CMD for the company. The new CMD is ex-Kearney's Vikas Kaushal. So a private sector person has been appointed as the MD CEO for 5 years. This is after a search of nearly 7 months. I mean, you've gotten a long tenure for a private sector CEO in a PSU name at a point of time when oil prices have come off and marketing margins for HPCL might look very strong. Now, of course, remember, there are lots of pulls and pressures, inventories, etc., so on and so forth. But on balance, fundamentally, this might work well. So keep an eye out for HPCL in the session today. That's the third stock on my radar.
I found that a very, very interesting story. I mean, that's amazing. I just hope that we haven't had this in a company like HPCL, but previous instances of lateral entry from the private sector in various levels of government and government bodies have had a mixed outcome.
Yep.
I mean, I go as far as to say, okay, look at the recent SEBI tenure. So it can be a mixed bag, but yeah, nevertheless, excited to see how this goes.
Yeah.
And what happens with the other PSUs as well? Because I think I think 3 or 4 of them have been lined up for a reappointment as well.
So it could be very interesting.
So it could be an interesting story to watch out for.
Could be an experiment that really works.
But we need to slip into a break, guys, very quickly. Producers command, so we get into a break, come back, talk about all of this. Stay tuned.